Estás sintonizando Adicto al Exito.es, donde los grandes genios emprendedores comparten sus secretos que los llevaron a desarrollar proyectos de éxito masivo. Estos consejos, jamás contados, revelarán la cruda realidad de lo que se necesita para triunfar. Así que prepárate, toma nota, que estás en adictoalexito.es. Empezamos.
Hi, this is Jessica Olmos from Adicto al Exito. I have the honor to introduce you to Victor Antonio. He has built a 20-year career as a top sales executive, president of global sales and marketing company. He has worked for Fortune 500 companies, has $1 billion of sales, and he's an author of 12 books. He's also an international sales trainer, and he's the host of Life or Debt on Spike TV. Hi, Victor, how are you?
I'm doing good, Jessica. But just to be clear, I didn't sell $1 billion. I worked for a $3 billion company.
Oh, okay.
But I did sell a lot, though.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more who's Victor Antonio?
My family's originally from Puerto Rico, right? Puertorriqueño.
Sí.
But I was born and raised in Chicago. So I think I think they took me to Puerto Rico when I was 8, but I really saw Puerto Rico for the first time when I was 30. So,
Wow.
I always tell people que soy ameriqueño,
Yes.
half American, Puertorriqueño. But my family moved in the late 50s. And so we lived in the inner city of Chicago near the Cabrini Green housing projects, near the Humboldt Park area. And so it was a very hard upbringing. So we didn't have a lot of money. We were poor. The fast forward the story, went to school, got an engineering degree, got an MBA, went into corporate America, started out as an engineer, didn't like it, Jessica, and I moved into sales eventually. And when I found sales, it's like I found my home in business.
Yes. And what is your why? Why did you start all this business? Why was it your home?
Why was the motivation?
Yes.
My mother, mami era la motivación.
Okay.
She was ella y la chancleta. My mother said to me, she says, if you don't go to college, you'll have to go to work with your father at the factory.
Wow.
And true story. And so I remember my father had one of those, I call it black collar job because it was so dirty, it was horrible. And so I went to college because of two things. One, I didn't want to work at the factory. The other thing was that, we didn't have a lot of money, and I heard engineers made money. And so I saw that as a way of, trying to earn money. And my mother also, I'm one of 7, the youngest one.
Wow.
And my mother really wanted one of us to, go to a 4-year college degree school, right? In other words, graduate from college. So I was her last hope. And I said, yeah, I'll do it because I don't want to work at the factory. But I've always been motivated by fear.
Okay.
And people find that interesting because I said, there's something about the fear of being poor, the fear of being broke, that drives me because I just don't want to go back anymore.
I imagine. So you're really different from your brothers and sisters. Why is that?
Yeah, it's I don't know, Jessica. People always ask me, what was different about you? What changed? And I don't know, Jessica. Life is weird, right? Because you can go one step this way or one step that way, and things could go very wrong.
Uh-huh.
I think I was just lucky in many circumstances. I guess there were times where if I'd gone left one way, things would have gone bad. And I just got lucky. I'd like to tell you that it was a grand plan. I figured it all out. I had the master plan. No, I was like feeling my way through the dark. And I think, when you come from, the neighborhood, the hood, el barrio, lo que sea, we just try to get out. You know what I mean? Better ourselves.
Yes.
But to me, I think the biggest shift, Jessica, was when I went to college. When I went to college, see, in our neighborhood, it was always predominantly Black and Hispanics.
Okay.
Black and Hispanics. Casi 50-50, 50-50. And when I went to college, it was for the first time I felt like a real minority because, there weren't that many Hispanics. Because typically we had Mexicans and Puerto Rican in our neighborhood. But now I was going to college and I was like dealing with Latin Americans, right? From Colombia,
Sí.
right? And all these other países, no? And so then you realize that everybody's different, but then you start realizing that you deal with people from Asia, whatever, the Middle East, and obviously Americans. And so I was thrown into an environment that was out of my element.
Okay.
But then one day, and don't laugh at the story, okay? This is a true story. Do not laugh,
I'm
Jessica.
not.
I met a guy, his name was Mike, and Mike was white. And we became very good friends. And I found out that Mike, who was white, was poor. And I was like, Mike, well, why are you poor? You're white. You shouldn't be poor. And he looked at me like I was an idiot, right? Because
Yes.
in my mind, sometimes in the neighborhood, we're conditioned that success is for other people but us, la raza, lo que sea, no?
Yes.
And I realized that there are other people who are poor also. And I don't know if people know this, but the majority of poor people in the United States, in terms of number, not percentage, in terms of number, are whites.
Wow, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because you think about their largest population, the majority of poor are whites. In fact, the majority of people who use welfare, public assistance, are white.
Wow.
But what happens is that they combine Hispanics, Asians, African Americans, American Indians, and others into a minority group,
Okay.
and it seems bigger than whites.
Okay.
And so those were things that woke me up. It was almost like a Matrix moment. You know how you wake up from the Matrix?
Yes.
And that's when I realized that, success is for everybody. I mean, that's when it really hit me. When Mike, who was white, was poor, and I realized, wait a minute, everything I've been told about, who we are, like success is not for us.
Yes.
It's for other people. I was like, no, that's a lie. It's for us.
Yes. And it's funny, like when you travel to Latin America, there's people that don't have money, but they're selling oranges, they're selling something. And here they're just begging for money here in the United States. So I think that's funny.
I think it's it's very fascinating because when people first come from Latin America, they're hard workers.
Yes.
Nobody argues that. Nobody argues that. But there's a lot of people who just get used to living on public assistance.
Okay.
Y no sé si es mala costumbre, hábitos, lo que sea, pero algo, they want the easy way out. And so I find it fascinating, but my message has always been success is for everybody. I am colorblind. And I mean that in a literal sense because, Jessica, I did my DNA test.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, I'm from everywhere. I even have Irish in me.
Oh, really?
I have Irish, I have European, I have Middle Eastern, African, obviously, Indian, and I even have some Jew in me.
Wow.
Tengo de todo, una mezcla tremenda. And it was like, I got everything. And so, that was another reinforcement that we're all from everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I hope one day that we can reach a level where we transcend categories, race.
Do you think that will happen, especially with Trump right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think it's been divisive even before that. And I think it's just, but here's where we got to put everything in perspective. I was born in 1963, and I remember around the 60s, growing up in early 70s, I remember like real racism. Now, you talk to somebody in the 40s and 50s, they'll talk to you about even more racism.
Okay.
So I think we're getting better. Do you know what I mean? I really believe that we're getting better. And the more that we become international, I think the better. The problem with, I'll say, Americans, including myself in that, is that there was a statistic that came out that was really interesting, Jessica. It said 75% of Americans don't have a passport.
Wow.
75% of Americans don't have passport. What does that mean?
They never travel.
They don't travel. They don't see things. Like, I've been on every continent. Nosotros vivimos en Argentina, por ejemplo, por 2 años, ¿no?
Wow.
Y yo he viajado todo Latinoamérica. I've been all over the place. Almost every country, especially Colombia.
Uh-huh.
But I've also been to the Middle East. I've been to Africa. I've been to Asia. And the more I travel, the more I realize that the world is very complex. And I realize that it isn't that people are bad. Nobody's really bad. You know what I mean? You got the small 5% who is just crazy, okay? Put those to the side.
Okay.
But, I remember just traveling around. One of the biggest culture shocks was when I went to Saudi Arabia, to Jeddah. And I realized that their culture is their culture. Su cultura es su cultura. Our problem is we always try to impose our culture on other people.
Yes.
And
Instead of learning.
Maybe learning and minding our own business just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that, but I think we're getting better.
Okay.
Whether it was Obama before or Trump now, I think we need to stop this. You know what I mean? This back and forth that serves nobody. And I think we need to just kind of zoom back. And I think we should just be ser humanos primero, just be human beings first, and then look at it from that perspective instead of trying to wear a red shirt or a blue shirt. I'm Republican, I'm Democrat. And I see that a lot. And I think that's a shame because I think the more we put ourselves in categories, the more we set ourselves up for disagreement.
Okay.
Because I think if everybody got into a big huddle and they said, okay, let's see if we have a game plan here. Okay, we're all human beings. We don't like crime. We all need to take care of each other. We all
Yes.
need to look out for each other. The majority would say what? Yes.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So now that we have that, let's find ways to, I guess work together and figure this out without, trying to win, or I have a better argument, or my candidate's better. I don't know. I'm getting to the age where I'm tired of seeing that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just somebody please fix this thing.
So
Yeah.
would you say that we should encourage American people to travel more? Or
Oh, absolutely. Yes. The thing is, I mean, there's certain realities. Look, one is that Americans need to travel more.
okay.
I think when they see more, I think they'll understand better and they'll just get a different perspective. I think they don't have that perspective. Let's say people who come from other countries come here, they have a different perspective and they see things different. I think Americans who travel will come back appreciating the United States. Because every time I came back to the US from a foreign country, I was like kissing the dirt when I got to the US. I was like, okay, good to be back.
Uh-huh.
Because you realize, that this is a great country. And too often we're looking at all the negatives, but I don't know, I still see it as a great country.
Start seeing more about the positives instead of the negative.
Yeah, it's is the glass half empty or half full? I'm going with half full.
Awesome.
We got a lot of things going on. I think whether it's this president or another president, somebody has to begin to fix things.
Okay.
And I don't think when I look at just people in general, I think we just all do want to get along. I hate to use that phrase,
Yes.
but everybody wants the same thing, right? We want a nice family, we want a nice job, we want a nice income, we want to live comfortably, we want to be able to go outside and be safe. Everybody wants the same thing.
Yes. Yesterday I was watching your show, Life or Debt. You're sometimes tough with these people.
Yeah.
And that's great. I love it. Like, I was like, oh my God. I got
know.
so excited. But what is the difference between someone who is financially rich and someone who is financially poor?
People have it together.
Okay.
And we talked about how, for example, 75% of American families are living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay.
75 are living paycheck to paycheck. Forbes did a study about a year and a half ago, and Jessica, they said that 61% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their savings account.
Wow.
Mira eso, less than $1,000 in their savings account. And so, again, it was fascinating. And there's one family, well, you'll figure which family out when you watch the show, that, it's a beautiful couple, right?
Yes.
He's like an Adonis, handsome guy. She's beautiful. She's gorgeous, right? Beautiful couple.
Yes.
They have beautiful kids. They got a beautiful house. They got beautiful cars in the driveway. They got a white picket fence and a dog named Boo. Okay? But, okay, they didn't have the dog. I made that part up.
Okay.
It's a perfect family, right?
Yes.
But all I had to do was scratch a little bit, and everything, like a house of cards, just fell apart.
Wow.
Desde afuera se veía bien.
Uh-huh.
Pero por adentro, it was worse. And I think a lot of American families are like that. I think there's too much debt that we carry. We try to keep up with everybody else in terms of spending. I mean, the amount of money we spend, let's say, on clothes is amazing. And we always feel like we have to buy. And so I guess that's the way our economy runs, but I think it's unfortunate sometimes.
So how do we become more financially stable?
Before I forget to mention, so I have a website called lifeordebt.tv,
Yes.
lifeordebt.tv, and I created a home study course, and it's free. You just download it for free. And it really walks you through the process of how to begin to move towards a path of financial stability. And the first step I always say to people is to know your numbers.
Okay.
You've got to know your numbers, and most people don't know their numbers. And so once you know your number, it's like a GPS system. You know where you're at.
Okay.
Now, we know where we want to go, which is debt-free, right? And so then we put a blueprint together, a plan is what we did with the family. I'm sure you saw this, where you give them a roadmap and say, okay, here are the 3 to 5 things you need to do to become financially stable. And if they execute, they become financially stable. When we looked at the 11 families we did in season 1, 11 out of the 11, 9 out of the 11 turned it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Some really turned it around. But 2 just didn't, they just didn't listen. They didn't listen to me. And so, but it was an interesting show. It was very eye-opening because it really revealed to me, what's wrong with the American mindset of consumerism, and how it's gone overboard sometimes.
basically like the show. I've never seen it, but everybody tells me keeping up with the Joneses. So everybody's
Yes.
doing that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a mindset, right? You look at your neighbor and you see they drive a new car. Maybe you need to drive a new car, right?
Yes.
Everybody needs to have bigger houses, right? But one of the interesting things that I found fascinating during the show, I read a book by Elizabeth Warren. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a Democrat. She wrote a book with her daughter called The Two-Income Trap. Two-Income Trap. And in there, she highlighted that one of the reasons that Americans are in debt was the fact that that families are moving out of the cities because the educational system is failing us. The government education system is failing us. So what happens is these families are moving to neighborhoods, better neighborhoods, safer neighborhoods. And in doing so, they're stretching themselves financially where the husband and the wife have to work, right?
Yes.
And then what happens is they've stretched themselves because they want to put their kids in the best schools, give them the best advantage. And then what happens is, let's say one of them loses their job, or when the economy goes down in a recession like 2007, 2009, somebody loses their job, and all of a sudden they can't keep up anymore. And so part of the mindset of keeping up with the Joneses isn't for personal ego, purposes. It's also because they want to put their kids in better schools.
Okay.
So I thought that was an interesting perspective. Like, it's a great book. It's called The Two-Income Trap. And it was an interesting, there are a bunch of studies in there. It was very fascinating. And I never looked at it from that perspective.
Wow, I'm going to buy it today. So
Yeah.
would you say, like, in culture-wise, there are more Latins, more like us Latins that you have to you get your paycheck, right, and you go party every Friday or every day basically and just drink. That's the culture I grew up in. So do you think there's a difference with all the cultures, or we're all the same? We're all wired the same.
No, I think we're all wired the same. I think, we can talk about there's some cultural differences, but I also think that, I mean, I was raised the same way, right? That we live for the weekend, no?
Yes.
La fiesta, lo que sea, no?
Sí.
And so we got to buy the nice clothes, we got to look good, the whole bit, right?
Yes.
And because somos Latinos, we have to look good, we have to smell good, we have to look good, when we go to the clubs. And so I've been there. And I think part of it is culture that drives us into, a little bit of financial poverty.
Okay.
Because if nobody ever taught you about finances, you don't know. And so my parents, when they came from Puerto Rico, I think my mother had a third grade education or a fifth grade education. My father it was one or the other. My father had a third grade, she had a fifth grade, one of the two. And what was interesting is that they never taught us about finances.
Yes.
Right? But here again is where I'm going to agree with Elizabeth Warren. Our school systems don't teach us these things.
They don't.
I mean, imagine if from early on you were taught about savings, the value of savings. Imagine if you were taught about checking account, how compound interest works and how credit cards can kill you when you're paying 29% interest. But not just one class. I mean, you're taught all the way through high school. How to do these things, even when you want to start a business, how to go get a loan or something to start a business. They don't teach us these things.
They don't.
And so what happens is that, if you go far back enough, it's one thing to say, Latins come over here, they like to party, they don't have a lot of money, but they still party. Well, that's because we haven't learned yet. But I bet you if I go back far enough, the first, let's say, Irish that came here, or the Europeans, the first or second generation didn't know either, but they figured it out. We as Hispanics, we figured it out. We'll figure it out eventually, right? 2 generations, but we'll figure it out. But I think the education system has failed us. It really has failed us. And then you got this constant media, these commercials, buy.
Yes.
New car, new shoes, new this. It's, so it's a constant battle of resisting temptation. But I don't think it's cultural. I just think it's education.
Education. So
Yes.
would you say that by going to one of your classes or one of your seminars, it will help us get better habits, or we should hire people like you or you obviously to learn more about what we're doing wrong with our money?
The thing is, I don't do any, like, I did this for the show because, one of the things, they called me. I don't want to do this anymore. You know what I mean? Dealing with families is very difficult for me. And I came really from a sales background. And I understand personal finances. So what I did is, again, I mentioned I created that home study course on lifeordebt.tv.
Okay.
Because I had people who, after the show, says, Victor, I need help. And I said, well, we're not doing this show anymore. And, my focus has always been on sales training.
Okay.
That's what I do. That's my full-time job. And so the show was one of these opportunities that came by to help people. And the reason I love that show because I really got to help people, go into people's houses. And again, not only did I transform them, they transformed me because I started seeing things differently.
Nice.
With Jessica, it was like I started getting a different perspective. So I think, one of the things we should do is, look at the home study course, download it, go through it, and maybe begin to kind of stabilize your finances. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because I think here's where I believe it robs us. When you're in debt, Jessica, you just don't have an opportunity to do other things. And the thing is, when you're in debt, let's say, we're doing this 10X growth conference, right? In Miami,
yes.
20 top speakers. The lowest ticket is $1,000, right?
But it's worth it.
Yeah. Beyond $1,000, actually.
Yes, I think it's worth like $20,000 to go there.
Some crazy number. I mean, it's whatever value people put on it. But here's my point: is that if you're in debt, and all of a sudden, because you ran up your credit card, you have, por decir algo, $15,000 in debt, right?
Yes.
And this opportunity comes along, you're going to go, I'm not going to go because that's $1,000 and I don't want to put another $1,000 on my credit card because I really can't afford the monthly payments, right?
Yes.
And right there, at that very moment, in this simple example, debt has caused you to miss out on an opportunity. Because if you didn't have that debt, you would have acted differently. You know what I mean? You would have said, I'll spend the $995 to go get some education to learn how to get out of debt.
Of course.
The interesting thing is that that's the education they need.
Okay.
That's the education they need. But because they're so much in debt, they're not going to go. Do you see what I mean? How debt can rob us of opportunities.
Yes. So it's better to ask a different question. How can I make $1,000 this week extra in order to pay for that conference?
Yes. Oh my God. You're perfect, Jessica. You're on it. You're 100% right. That's it. It's like, can that $1,000 make me more than $1,000?
Yes.
Now, the answer to me would be obviously yes, it can. But you got to apply it. Remember, we said that knowledge is not power. The application of the knowledge is power, right? So a lot of people need to apply what they learn. And I think that's one of the biggest, setbacks of a lot of people is they know a lot. I know a lot of people who know a lot, Jessica.
I know, yes.
But they don't act.
Why? Why they don't act if they have all the information?
I know. I think they're scared. I think, maybe they're scared. They don't know how. They're afraid to fail. I have a documentary. I don't know if you saw it. It's called The Motivator.
No.
Okay. So The Motivator is a documentary. By the way, it's on YouTube for free. It's called The Motivator. So if you type in Victor Antonio, The Motivator.
I'll watch it tonight.
Yes. And I actually went to speak at the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. It's a Hispanic organization. And it followed me. It's 24 hours in the life of Victor Antonio, right?
Nice.
And in there, I tell the story about how I was working in corporate America, and I had a $250,000 a year job. That was my base salary. I had commissions on top of that, stock options, and one day I quit because I wanted to write books and become a speaker.
Okay.
And it was very scary to make that jump. And when I made that jump, I realized that being an entrepreneur, starting your own business is one of the hardest things you're going to do. But if you're listening to this podcast, here's what I would tell you. It's also one of the most rewarding things if you make it work.
Okay. Because
working for yourself, being your own boss is one of the best feelings in the world. But you got to be disciplined. You got to be persistent, and you're going to fail. You're going to, slam the wall a couple of times, but you just keep pushing through. And I think a lot of people just don't want to take the risk. And I think that's why they never start.
And is there like an exercise for them to start learning more about just keep going, no?
I think the best way, what motivated me indirectly was years ago I saw a gentleman by the name of Zig Ziglar.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who he is.
Yes.
Very well. Yeah. So I saw Zig Ziglar back in 95. And when I saw Zig Ziglar, it was like, that's what I want to do. Right?
Yes.
And then I also found out that, I don't know, at that time he was making, somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000, some crazy number like that per speech.
Wow.
And that's exactly what I said. Wow. I said, wow. And I said, wow. So there's a guy that's doing it. There is proof that you can make a living as a speaker.
Yes.
And because I knew the proof was there, and there were more speakers, obviously. I said, it's possible. I said, it's possible. I just have to figure out the code.
Okay.
You know, como un rompecabezas. You know, I just got to figure out the code.
Yes.
And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking of doing something, look for somebody who's already doing it.
Okay.
And is successful at it. And there's your proof that it does work. Now, your job is to learn from that person or study that person and figure out how to do it yourself.
Okay.
But that's the beautiful part. Once you see proof, you go, it's possible. I can do it. And then you act on that.
Perfect. And like that is possible. Like for me starting out or another people that are starting out, this person, Julio Ferreira, had this question: how do you become a millionaire in 1 year?
Oh, hell, I don't know. Get lucky.
Get lucky? Really?
Well, the thing is, I mean, okay, Jessica, I said, here's what kills me about people.
Okay.
Is that, and if I'm being too honest,
I love being honest. I love honesty.
Puerto Rican in me. You know what I mean? It's the
Yes.
Puerto Rican in me. Here's what happens. Everybody tells you can make $1 million in a year. You know, buy my program, you'll be a millionaire in a year.
Okay.
You know, if that was true, there'd be millionaires walking all over the place.
Okay.
The reality is, it's rare to turn the switch on and become a millionaire.
Okay.
It's rare. And so, you know, can that program put you on the path to becoming a millionaire? Yes. Big yes.
Okay.
But the thing is, you and I could have the same, let's say, program in our hands. You and I have the same programs. But because we do things differently, you may get there faster than me.
Okay.
You know, but if somebody says, you know, I'm broke right now, I only make $30,000 a year. Victor, how do I make $1 million a year? My first reaction, if I can be so blunt, is first, you're broke.
Okay.
So why don't we get past broke? Why don't we just try to shoot for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 next year?
Okay.
That to me is reasonable, right?
Okay. Yes.
And then after you hit that, well, you know what? Let's hit over 100,000. Let's go for 6 figures. Oh, I love that. And if you get there faster, que Dios te bendiga.
Claro.
Now you're like, okay, we got to $150,000. Maybe we can go for 300 to 400, 500,000. Boom. How do we do that? Let's leverage the money we have, invest it wisely, and go for it. And so it'll take you 3, 5, 10 years. I'm going to say, who knows?
Okay.
Everything is, but I think people have to be careful when somebody says, I can make you a millionaire,
Okay.
you know, in a year. I mean, first of all, I think it's BS, you know, por decirlo así, mierda. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. You know what I mean? And the thing is, yes, that's not too blunt, too honest.
Oh, I love honesty. That's why I love your show.
By the way, that's the life or death side that comes out of me. Because I'm like, you're full of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
And the reason I want people to know this is because, mira lo que pasa. I buy a program. The guy tells me, or the girl tells me, that I can make $1 million in a year. I implement everything in the program, and it doesn't work out. And then how do I feel at the end of that year?
Horrible.
At the end, I feel horrible. I go, what's wrong with me? You know, why couldn't I do it? Or, you know, that guy did it. Why couldn't I do it? I'm such an idiot. I'm horrible at business. I don't ever want to do this again. Right?
And they quit?
Now, yeah, and they quit.
Wow.
But the reality is that many of these people who said they made $1 million in a year got lucky. That's it. And you can't duplicate luck.
Wow.
You cannot duplicate it. But now what happened is that person feels bad. They don't want to do anything else. And they're done.
Wow.
Now, what if I told you, I said, what they're hearing now? No. Sometimes it'll take 3, 5, 10, maybe more. See, the thing is, the first step is to get your finances stabilized, right?
Yes.
In other words, know your numbers, get stable. Now that my numbers are stable, where can we begin investing to do the things I want to do and do something I love to do, right?
Yes.
And if I can make, money doing things I love to do, great. Because it isn't about to me, being a millionaire is a number.
Okay.
I'm not, by the way, would I love to have millions? Yes. But here's the key part. Are you happy doing what you're doing? I would rather be the guy who loves what they're doing and is making, let's say, $100,000 than the guy who hates what he's doing and is making $5 million.
Wow.
Now, it's not that I don't want to make $5 million. So I want you to understand. I'm not sitting there going, I don't want to make $5. I do. But if it's not me, I don't want to do that because I love doing this, then that's what I'm going to do because I enjoy it. And I truly believe that if you find that something in you, that purpose, that passion, like me, I love speaking. I love the sales process. I love training people on how to make more money selling. I love working with small companies to teach them how to sell better and make more money. I mean, I love it. I mean, you know what I mean? I wake up in the morning thinking sales. I go to bed thinking sales.
Nice.
It's not work for me. It's like this passion. I love it. And what happened is because people feel that passion, and here's the key part, I demonstrate value. By demonstrate value is I'm going to show you step by step, Mr. CEO, how you're going to do it, how your sales team is going to make more money. And when I show them and it works for them, guess what they want to do? Pay me more.
Nice.
And what do? I charge more. And then I charge more, they pay me more. And what do I do again? I start charge even more. Do you see what I mean? And it begins to build like that. But now I'm in a position, I can honestly say this to you, Jessica, I'm in a position where I love what I'm doing, and every year I want to make more money.
Awesome.
But because it's what I love what I'm doing. So it's not about, let's just make $1 million.
Yes.
You got to find what you love to do and then ask yourself, okay, now that I found what I love to do, how can I make a living first?
Okay.
And then that means stabilize your finances. Then when you stabilize your finances, okay, now how can I make my first $500,000? And then how can I make my next $500,000 to get to $1 million? And I think that's a more realistic approach.
So basically, like when you started like learning how to walk and then learn how to run, like little by little.
That's it. That's it. I think we complicate things. Too many times you hear people talk about, I invested this and I made this much money, right?
Yes.
And so what they told you is that's what they did, what happened to them, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen for you. It's like, you ever notice when you go to, nobody ever loses money at Vegas. You ever notice that? Nobody ever loses money in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
Everybody always comes back telling me how much they won. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If everybody's winning in Vegas, how does Vegas stay in business?
Uh-huh.
Because they don't tell you about the losses.
Okay.
That's the problem. And a lot of people do that. So, if you're going to buy a millionaire program, what typically happens is somebody did something. It was very unique. They found a market. The market responded. They hit the right time, the right place with the right product or service, and boom, the market took off. And so they made their $1 million.
Okay.
Now they're trying to sell you the blueprint. Hey, here's how I did it. You could do it too. Well, a lot of things have to come into play. You got to get lucky. You got to have the right product. You got to have the right service, hit it at the right time, meet the right people, make the right connections. All these variables you can't put in a business plan.
Okay.
And so when somebody promises you a blueprint for $1 million, no, they can give you a guide. They can't give you the blueprint. That's the big difference.
Wow, love it.
Yeah.
It's like a deep definition.
Yeah, but I think it's real though. You know what I mean?
Yes. I've never thought about it that way. So everything is sinking in. Like,
yeah,
that's so true.
It's a process. People don't understand. Success is a process. It's like adicto al éxito, right?
Yes.
Addicted to success. Okay, well, let's be addicted to success. What does that mean? I mean, I need to study everything. I need to that's my drug of choice, right? Success is my drug of choice.
Yes.
Which means that I'm going to study successful people. But I don't want to study everybody. Again, if I know what I want to do, if today I wanted to start a clothing company, right?
Yes.
If today in my heart, I start a clothing company, I'll tell you what's going to happen. If today I make that decision, maybe in a year from now, I'll probably have spent a lot of money and screwed up a lot of things and lost a lot of money, right?
Yes.
But if I'm on purpose, I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. But I'll tell you this, but by the second or third year, I stabilize the ship. Get the finance. We got enough business coming in. We're paying the bills where we can turn on the lights every day. And then maybe by the fourth or fifth year, now we're making some good money, right? And now I start looking for bigger deals. And maybe in 5 to 10 years, maybe 5 to 7 years, I kill it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what I think people need to get in their head so they don't get disappointed when it doesn't happen. I see right away.
Awesome. I really, really love your definition. Like it's still sinking in me. Like, because normally people tell me like, oh, in 1 year you're gonna do this, and another year you're gonna do this. So your answer is perfect.
Yeah, I think it's BS. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The thing is, there's too many variables.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can, like I said, we can start out with the same resources, but we're going to have, and we both just, like I said, you and I were standing here right now talking, right?
Yes.
You there, here. Somebody gives you, let's say, $10,000. They give me $10,000, right?
Yes.
And it says, go buy this millionaire program. We're going to go buy the millionaire program. We're going to execute differently.
Okay.
And some of us you're going to get an opportunity, or maybe I'll get an opportunity. You're going to get a break. Maybe I'll get the break. I'm going to get screwed. You're going to get screwed. Many things can happen that it's unpredictable. And so I really want people to understand that success is a process,
Okay.
that you're going to go after something and you're going to fail. I mean, what people don't see, Jessica, when they look at me, me ven en la tarima, y, lo más bien, they're like, look at this guy, he's great, look at him talk. He's got books, he's got this guy travels international, he's got it made,
Yes.
right? And that is the picture. And that's exactly what you see. What they don't see is the last, I'll say 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Let me see, I started in 2003.
Okay.
But I committed to sales in 2008. So almost 10 years I started doing sales.
So 10 years?
10 years.
You've done a lot in 10 years.
Yeah. And so it's taken me this long to get here.
Okay.
And what people don't see is the time I went to an event, did the event, and the guy didn't pay me. The time where, I designed something that didn't work. I spent $5,000 designing something I think would have worked to help me grow my business, didn't work. The time I did a mail out that cost me over $5,000, got zero response, just blew $5,000. I got stories on and all the stuff that just went wrong.
Okay.
Right? But then again, it's the law of averages. Many things started going right after a while. I started figuring it out.
Okay.
You just go one way, you bump, you're like, okay, that's not good. Let's learn from that. And then boom, oh, that's not good. Let's learn from that. And then little by little, you begin to figure it out. And that to me is the process of success. Anybody who says success is a straight line is a liar.
Oh my God.
Just a pure liar.
It is.
Nobody says, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invent a product, take it to market, and it's going to be a hit. No, I mean, some people are even shocked that their products are a hit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, but I think if we all had this more realistic expectation, I think there would be more entrepreneurs. Why? Because I believe when people know to expect failure, and this is the key part, when people know to expect failure, when it does happen, they're not destroyed by it.
Okay.
If I tell you, I said, okay, Jessica, I want you to walk down that street. I said, now there's going to be a big hole there, right? So you're going to have to jump over that hole, right? And as you walk further down, there's this tree. It might fall on, you might not, you might want to look out for it, right?
Yes.
Now, when you walk down the street and you see the hole, you're not shocked. Victor said there was going to be a hole here and I should look out for it.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
And then he says, okay, when I walk down this way, there's going to be a tree. There's the one he was talking about. And success is like that. When you got a good coach, a good mentor, that's what they're going to tell you. I said, look, you're going to try this. You're going to go to this event. You're going to try to talk to people and they're going to reject you.
Okay.
In fact, they're going to ignore you.
Yes.
And by the way, psychologists call this the inoculation theory. Like, how you get an inoculation?
Yes.
Like if you have something, when you inoculate somebody, you make them impervious to whatever disease you have so you don't get it. When you do that to people, you say, look, this is what's going to happen. You're going to bump into this wall. You're going to fall into that hole. You're just going to climb right back up. Make sure you go past that tree, get around it. Don't let it fall on you. When people know what's coming, because that's the path of success, when they come against that resistance, that rejection, what do they say? Well, Victor said that was going to happen. So yeah, okay, great. There it is. He said it was going to happen. So there it is. But when you read these like success manuals or whatever, these programs, right?
Yes.
They never talk about that.
No.
They never talk about what's going to go wrong. They never say, hey, it's not going to work every time. You're going to have to try at least 5 to 10 times, maybe 20, just to get somebody to pay attention to you.
Yes.
Now, if you told me that, if I went up to you, you said no, I go up to the second person, they said no. In my head, I'm thinking, that's what Victor said was going to happen. But if nobody tells me that, the first sign of rejection, I go, it must be me. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not cut out to be a business person. And that's where we destroy ourselves psychologically, because we thought it should have been perfect, because that's what the expert said it was. The expert said it was going to be perfect. But it's a lie. It's a big lie. Success is messy, very messy to get there. But it just requires adjusting as you go along. And those are the people that succeed.
So basically like sports, practice it until you get it, right?
Yeah, practice. Yeah. I wish it was like sports, because in sports, if you're practicing baseball, you have the pitches come to you, right?
Yes.
And so you do practice, you practice, but then you go into a real game and the guy doesn't pitch like the machine, right?
Yes.
He throws your curveball. And so I think it's, by the way, you have to practice your craft.
Okay.
I think that is 100% correct. You have to practice your craft. Now, when you take your craft to the market, you have to anticipate that there are going to be some changes. It's not going to be the way you expect.
Okay.
And I think that therein lies, part of the combination of expecting something not to go well. And I'm not saying that you're negative, expecting failure. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying be ready for it, because it typically does happen, that things don't turn out right. I've gotten to the point now, Jessica, when things go wrong. Like today, we had like two setbacks today. And my daughter, who works for me, is like, damn, like she's got this long face. And I'm like, sweetie, this happens. It's not a big deal.
Uh-huh.
We'll figure it out. And she kind of looks at me like, okay, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, I've been there so many times. I said, I can't tell you how many times I've been screwed. Things didn't work out. People left me behind, didn't do this for me. They fell below my expectation. People promised me things, they didn't come through, blah, 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 blah. I've gotten to the point where I don't even get disappointed anymore.
You just keep going.
I just keep going. I go, okay, well, you disappointed me. That's too bad. Okay, next.
Nice.
You know what I mean? I just don't take
Yes.
it personal anymore. And I think that's the mindset of just a person who's just going to keep going.
Love your answer. I saw one of your videos that you were giving advice about tax season. And right now we're basically in tax season. Do you have any tips for tax season for business owners or?
I think, I hate taxes. I wish they would go to a flat tax. You know what I mean? I think that would be so much easier. I think if they went to a flat tax, everybody pays, 25%, no tax write-off, no corporate loopholes. Everybody pays 25% no matter how much you make, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to tax season, I mean, the thing is, if you don't know anything about taxes and you've got a lot of write-offs and you think you can write off a lot of stuff, really look for write-offs. We use, I believe, Quicken, the business software. And, we just go through that stuff and we try to find write-offs. I mean, one of the things that most people don't think about is that if they started their own home-based business, for example, I'm in this office right now, and because I have a home-based business, I can write off the space in the house that I use and the percentage of electricity, water, like I say, that I use for the house. I can write off a percentage of my cell phone bill because of that, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
so I think people need to consider that maybe they want to start a business because, there's potential write-offs. So that's the other great thing about this country is that, how easy it is to start a business in the U.S.? My God, I mean, there's other countries where you have to go through this whole licensing process just to start a business. Here, if you want to be a personal entrepreneur, start your own business, it's easy to do. But to answer your tax question, I mean, find write-offs. I mean, that's the easiest one.
Okay.
Go to a tax preparer. But I think the more you educate yourself on what you can write off, because sometimes it's amazing what you can write off. We were going through our taxes and we found some newer write-offs. With the healthcare plans that we now have, we could write a percentage of that off. And so it's so complex, Jessica. When you look at the tax code system, it's so complex. One of the things I strongly recommend that if you're listening to this and you're thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, starting your own business, keep in mind that that's one good way to create some write-offs.
It is.
Yep.
I've been learning a lot about taxes. Now I'm doing it by myself, so I'm learning a lot and I'm like, okay, I can do this, I can do that. So it's like really interesting learning about all these subjects.
Yes. Yeah, when you go through it, you're like, oh, I didn't know I could write off that. Really? Oh, I can take a percentage of that. Yes. You can take, I can claim that. Yes. Well, that works out. And there's so many, and every year the tax code is changing. You know what I mean? From last year to this year, I mean, already major changes. So, I always tell people, if you can't do it yourself, find somebody you trust and work with them.
Okay, awesome. And what have you learned as a leader to help you grow your company?
What have I learned as a leader? I think resilience. What I mentioned before is that when things happen, you just kind of go, you feel sorry for yourself for like a minute. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You walk around going, coño, ¿por qué? Hey, coño, ¿por qué? And that whole thing. And then you go, okay, we're back. You know what I mean? It's
okay.
Let's go back again. So I think resilience is a big one. I think, when you lead other people, I think, you just have to exercise this level of patience that I think comes with time. At least for me, it has. We Hispanics, we're hot-headed. You know what I mean? We fly off the handle, right?
Yes.
And so what I've learned is that, just to think a little longer. Between stimulus and response, I should wait. If there's something, before reacting to something, I should try to give it a minute or two. And I'm like, I'm a work in progress. I'm always trying to get better, I think, at that. I think so. Resilience is one. I think being patient is the second big one. And I don't know. I think the third thing is really, I think when you enjoy what you're doing and you love what you're doing, you know more about what you're doing. You love to read, because I love to read.
Yes.
And when you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, people follow you. You know what I mean? Because you become a credible source of information. And so I think a great leader also has to have a great database of information, knowledge. If you're running a business, then know a lot about the business, everything around the business, so that when people come to you for answers, you have those answers. And it's okay to say you don't know, but at least try to educate yourself and always stay, on the front lines of education. Because I do a lot of sales training, I try to read as many sales books as I can when they come out, the new ones.
Yes.
And so, one of my secrets to reading a lot of books is the following. A lot of people buy a book and they'll read about 20, 30 pages and they kind of go, I don't know if I like this book. And they put it to the side. Then they'll read another 10 pages and they go, I still don't know if I like this book. And because they don't really like the book, they never buy another book, right? They still have that same book on the shelf, right?
Yes.
And they go, well, when I finish reading that one, I'll buy another book, right? But many years ago, I changed my logic on this. I have the 100-page rule, the 100-page rule. And that is, I will read a book. And if the first 100 pages are not good, I'm not feeling it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I donate it. I give it to Goodwill.
Nice.
And I go buy another book. You know what I mean? Because it's dumb. Think about it. If people stop reading sometimes because they bought that one book, they didn't finish it, and they feel, well, I didn't finish the one book, so why buy another one?
Yes.
Right? Yes. Well, I like to explain it this way. Well, the reason you didn't finish it was because that book was not for you. It didn't have the information you wanted at this time. Because right now, even for you, Jessica, just like me, right now, we're in a position where we need certain information. Yes. We're looking to learn about certain things. And if the book doesn't line up with that, we're not interested. And so what I've learned is that if the book doesn't line up with what I was looking for, I bought the book, I thought it was going to be about this. It's not. Well, guess what? Goodwill. And I just literally give it away to Goodwill.
I love your strategy.
It's library, by the way, because I give my books away. I only keep on my shelf. You ever see these speakers? If I give this small joke, you'll get this. You ever see speakers who, they always do these video conferences and they have millions of books behind them?
Oh, yes, I've seen those.
Right? And they're like, oh my God, you're so impressed. I'm totally opposite of that. I have the smallest bookshelf. Here's why. Unless the book is exceptional, it doesn't last on my bookshelf.
Okay.
I can go to my bookshelf right now. I'm telling you right now, I got the best of the best books on my shelf. See, I don't go for quantity. I go for quality.
Nice.
And so I get rid of books all the time. At the end of every year, literally, I take a mountain of books over to Goodwill. And I purge my books every year. Totally different mindset. Because I believe in streamlining my knowledge. But I can go to my shelf and I can find the information I want right away. So my encouragement to those who don't read is buy the book. If after the first 100 pages you're not convinced, get rid of the book, go buy another one. But don't stop reading. Don't stop reading.
That is so smart because normally I like to finish things. So when I don't like a book, I'm like, okay, I force myself to finish the book.
Yeah.
But I love yours that you're, okay, by the 100 page, I don't like it, I'll just donate it.
Es como, when we're kids, cómete la comida.
Sí.
Cómetela toda. And you're like, and so you feel like you have to do that with your book, right?
Yes.
And so you get this guilty feeling like, pero I have to finish it. I bought it.
Yes.
No, you don't. No,
I love it.
Get rid of the book.
Yes.
It's because every time you look at it, you're reminded of it.
Yes.
And you're disgusted that you haven't finished it, right? So you feel bad.
Yes.
And because you feel bad, you associate that bad feeling with that book. And every time you look at that book, you get a bad feeling. So you'll never read the book.
That's
Get
so
rid
smart.
of the book. It's okay not to finish your food. Okay? It's okay. Está bien. Que Dios te bendiga. Está bien.
Muchas gracias. And what is the best advice that you have received from one of your mentors?
Just keep asking till someone says yes.
Keep asking? Awesome.
Yeah, he said, el señor se llamaba José Santana. José Santana era de la ¿cómo se dice? La Islas Canarias.
Ajá.
España, ¿no?
Sí.
Y el tipo hablaba con una voz muy profunda, muy, very basic, como Ricardo Monteblanc, bien así, bien, como si bien sofisticado, bien, tú sabes.
Ajá.
Y siempre hablaba, y siempre decía, Víctor. Y un día le pregunté a José, how do you become successful? And he said, very simple. En inglés me lo dijo, very simple, con su acento, ¿no? Me dijo, very simple, Víctor. You have to keep asking till someone says yes. Just keep asking till someone says yes. Me lo dijo así, me lo
Like
dijo
in
así.
sales.
In sales, he says, just keep asking till someone says yes. That's how you become successful, Victor. I was like, that's great. That's great advice. So I keep asking till someone says yes. It's like I always tell guys, I joke about this. I said, look, if you don't have a girlfriend, I said, look, just go to a nightclub or something and just keep asking till someone says yes. Because someone always says yes.
Well, yeah,
You know,
nightclub.
yeah, o lo que sea, un baile, lo que sea, una fiesta, una quinceañera, I don't know. Pero, algo así. Pero I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I received. I think the other one was like, learn to slow down. Was the
Okay.
other one.
Slow down.
It's okay to slow down. By slow down, meaning, think a little bit. Don't be
Okay.
rushed into making a decision. Breathe. It's okay. You don't have to go that fast. You know what I mean? Stuff like
Yes.
that. Say, you don't have to make a decision right now. But I think there's so many little pieces of wisdom I picked up. I think one was always there is no such thing as a wrong decision. You just have to make it work.
Okay.
So if you decide to do something like you want to become a speaker, trainer, lo que sea, it was a good decision because you felt it in your heart.
Yes.
Now you just have to make it work.
Okay.
And I've always loved that. It's not, don't depend on luck. Just make it work. Figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. And we all have different definition of success. What is your definition of success?
I think peace of mind.
Peace
You know
of
what I
mind.
mean?
Okay.
Yeah, peace of mind. Una tranquilidad. It's if you can do what you like, it's almost like if you can do what you like, Jessica, right?
Yes.
If you can make money doing what you like and you live a good life, good, healthy personal life. Like I've been married now 28 years.
Wow,
Been with my wife-
congrats.
Thank you. Been with my wife now 30 years together. And she's like my best friend. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I love being around my wife. I even follow her to the grocery stores. You know what I mean? Because I
To
like
be
being around.
honest, I haven't heard that in a while. So props to you.
Thank you. No, I love that. Because sometimes she goes, I'm going to the grocery store. I said, can I go with you? She goes, what? No, I just want to hang out with you.
Uh-huh.
30 years later, right?
So how do you
I
keep
think-
it alive?
I don't know. You got to talk to her. She's probably about that. But I think if you love what you do, you can make money loving what you do, and then you love your personal life and you have a best friend. I think that combination right there, those three things, I think, so on the personal life, your personal life is good. Your professional life is good, and you're financially stable. Do you know what I mean? I think
Yes.
those three things, if you can blend them together, and I think the one piece of advice I guess I would give like married couples if they're struggling right now is that, stop trying to be right.
Okay.
I mean, me and my wife probably argue maybe, I don't know, twice a year. We don't have that many arguments. Our arguments are probably like this, Jessica. No, I'm not doing that. You do it. And I walk away. That's our arguments. Right?
She's a Latina also?
What's that?
She's a Latina also?
No. She's from Minnesota.
Wow.
She's German Norwegian, pero qué mezcla. You know what I mean? Una combinación
Yes.
tremenda. Alemana y puertorriqueño. Wow.
Me encanta.
Yeah, so her last name is Schmid.
Ajá.
And pero bien tranquila. I'm very, ¿cómo se dice? Muy activo. I'm like,
Yes, you look
I'm-
active.
Right. And my wife is like steady.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Pero steady. She's like, like como nada. You know what I mean? I could be like, no, we're going to do this. She goes, well, you need to think about it. Yeah, but look, this is the way it should. Goes, yeah, I understand. But you really need to consider this. And I'm like, and I'm like, And early on, I used to just walk away. Esta tipa no sabe lo que está, está confundida.
Sí.
And then I come back and I go, yeah, you were right.
So you would
So,
say
you know,
that
I
you have
th-
to find a person that's the opposite from you?
Maybe I think, by the way, we talk a lot all the time. Even
Okay.
today, I mean, literally almost every morning, I'm not making this up. Almost every morning,
Okay.
like I'll be in my office here, my home office here. She always comes in, has a cup of coffee with me, and we just chat for a good half hour or something every morning.
Nice.
And so we just have casual conversation. And I think we learn not to be like, we try not to stay mad at each other because we both know that we can be stupid. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes
Yes.
you do something and you knew you were wrong, but your ego doesn't let you admit that you were wrong.
Yes.
And I think the best couples have realized, just say, like, if it was you and I, Jessica, I said, Jessica, look, okay, that was a boneheaded move. And you're going to say, I know, it happens to all of us. Right. And my wife comes from that space. She's like, I get it. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to talk. Sometimes you just need your space. I got that. And it's like, it ends right there. It doesn't, like, sometimes you want to stay mad for 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
And it makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. And I think we've gotten to the point where if we're mad at each other, again, which is not often, but we just, like, forgive each other quickly. Because maybe you were in a bad mood, things happened to you during the day, and when I said something, you yelled at me for no reason, right?
Yes.
Well, then I can be mad at you, but I go, she's having a bad day. And I kind of look at it, ooh, bad day. I think I'll go to my corner in my office and just stay there and then she'll come over later on, and then she'll como si nada, start talking to me like anything, and it's like you understand after a while. You know what I mean?
That is awesome.
But yeah, I think if you can find, I just been blessed. I mean, if you can find a best friend that you can hang out with all the time, like I said, I'm not joking when I say I really like hanging out with my wife.
And it's really rare because I really feel it in your voice. Like, it's really rare when I hear somebody say that. Like, I haven't heard someone say that about their wife or their partner in so long.
Oh, wow. That's a shame. That's a shame.
No, really props to you.
Thank you.
But maybe I'm just hanging out with the wrong people. I don't know.
I don't know. Could be, I don't know. I think I've learned more from my wife than anybody else, I think, ever. You know what I mean? About, it's, I hate, you hate to admit it as a guy, but it's like, sometimes guys are just screwed up. It's too much testosterone going to the head. We always want to be right, and machismo, the whole bit.
Yes.
And I think my wife is, I'm sure I taught her a couple of things, but I think she's taught me more about just, being more calm, relaxed, and everything else. Just a bunch of things. Hard to describe, but it's just a bunch of little things. She even controls my diet, by the way.
Nice.
She controls the food in the house. She makes me go to the doctor. She makes me go to the dentist. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And again, it's interesting because her culture, she came from that culture. Mira interesante. She came from that culture, and I did not. Going to the dentist regularly just to clean your teeth clean every 6 months, right? Getting a physical checkup every year. I mean, we Latinos aren't taught that, right? Hispanics aren't taught that.
No, we're not.
And so what's happened is, here's the interesting thing. So I've learned that from her. At first, I fought it, right? Early on. Nah, but carajo, no way. I'm not going to, why do I need that? And now it's like part of the routine. Well, what's interesting is our kids, who are, half German, Norwegian, and half, Puerto Rican, they now have those habits, la costumbre of going in. Do you see what I mean about it? It just evolves because my wife transferred the knowledge to me. We transferred it to our kids because of her culture. And that's why another example of why mixing cultures is a good thing sometimes.
It is.
We learn from each other. But it's funny because my wife's very quiet, but then she says, I like hanging out with you, she tells me, is because when we go to a party, it's like, you know how to have fun at a party. And she's not like that. Bien reservada, And so that's what I'm saying. We have a very interesting mix. It's but it works.
That's awesome, and congrats. That's awesome.
Yep.
And what books are you reading right now, and which one is inspiring you?
Books I'm reading. Let me see. I've read, there was a book that I found. It's hard to find. It's a business book. I don't know if you're going to like it.
I love business books.
Well, this one, I was coming back. I was doing an event. Where was I at? I think it was in the Middle East or something. But anyway, I was coming back. I stopped in Frankfurt, Germany, and I found this book. It's called, and I'm holding it right now. Let me see. It's called The Decision Book.
Okay.
And it's a business book. It's called The Decision Book, 50 Models for Strategic Thinking by these are names I can't. Michael Krogres and Roman Schapler. And it's called The Decision Book. It's a black cover, 50 Models for Strategic Thinking. And I really love this book because it gives you 50 models for thinking about business with using 50 different models. Like, one in there is, you're familiar with the SWOT analysis, right?
Yes.
Strength, weakness, opportunities. That's one of the models in there, but they have some other ones I've never heard of. And so I find that book interesting. Favorite books, I think, one of the books, since we're talking about Adicto al Exito, is, I think you should read, and I would recommend it to your readers, Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outlier.
Outlier.
Have you read that book?
To be 100% honest, I read it like 3 years ago, but it was like the first pages and I was just going to sleep. So it was one of the few books that I didn't finish it for some reason, but I'll start it again.
Let me tell you why Outlier is. So I'm going to give you the motivation to want to read it because your topic of success is perfect. Because I remember we talked about how that person wanted to be a millionaire in 1 year, whatever.
Yes.
Well, Malcolm Gladwell in the book Outlier talks about that very thing, about how certain people hit it at the right time, right place, right moment, and that's why they took off. And then he explains why it's not duplicatable. It's a really powerful book, and I think if you go through it now with a different mindset,
yes,
that it really seeks to understand why people are successful. It explains why Bill Gates became Bill Gates and how it could never be duplicated. Because of the situation, there were only like 4, operating systems in the US. He happened to have access to one where he learned how to program and code. And because he learned how to program and code, he was able to get to the next level faster. And because he could get to the next level, he was able to design programs, DOS systems and all that, and it explains that if he didn't live nearby, and by the way, he lived in an affluent neighborhood.
Okay.
And because he lived in an affluent neighborhood and there was a company, they had a computer that they let him use. So he can learn how to program for free, because back then you had to pay a lot of money per hour, but he got to use it for free. Now think about that. In the book Outlier, and I guess I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, if his family wasn't affluent, if they weren't in that neighborhood, if that company didn't exist, or if that company existed but charged him money, he may never have learned how to program because it was too expensive to learn how to program. But because all those things line up, Bill Gates there's the beginning of Bill Gates, right?
Yes.
And so I can't duplicate that, because you see how there were so many variables involved?
Yes.
That's what Outlier is about. He's looking for the outlier effect.
Okay.
What was the outlier effect that made you successful? And it's a totally different perspective. I mean, fight through the book if you have to, but there's gold in that book.
It was just 3 years ago, so right now I have a different mindset from 3 years ago, so I know I'll read it.
I've had that happen to me where I go back to a book and I'm like, I'm ready to read this now.
Yes.
Because remember, right now you need certain information, right? For example, you had the show, you want to talk about success.
Yes.
But maybe 3 years ago, I don't know if you had the show, but let's say you didn't have the show. Maybe you were thinking about it, but you weren't lined up. That wasn't your passion and purpose at the time.
Yes.
But now that it is, the book is perfect. So I think you should read it. I think. Tell me what you think about it after you read it. By the way,
I will read it today. Like I have it in my living room, so I'll get it and start reading it tonight.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of aha moments when you really go through it. It's like, wow. It talks about how the Beatles became successful.
Wow.
And why you can't duplicate that either. What they did.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and it talks about sports figures, how they became successful, and how different variables allowed them to be successful. And again, variables that cannot be duplicated.
Wow.
That's why a lot of people who start a business, I think Steve Jobs is a rare one.
Yes.
That they launch a business, and then what happens is they go try to launch another one and it doesn't work.
Yes.
And so wait a minute, but I thought you had the formula. No, you had a great product, a great service, and you hit the market at the right time. And then when they tried to repeat it again, the failure rate has got to be greater than 90-95%.
That is so true. Like I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, because the variables are different. And see, but when you kind of think this way, you realize that nobody can offer you a blueprint. They can give you a guide, but nobody has the blueprint. Like do these 10 steps and you'll hit your million. It doesn't work that way. The biggest example I always give people is I say, take 2007 to 2009, when the recession hit, right?
Yes.
Everybody set up to that point, invest in real estate, because real estate always goes up. It's anti-gravity, always goes up. And then it went down. You know what I mean? And again, the variables changed. And so that's a simple example, but I mean, the book is loaded with examples of how different variables made that person successful. Like if Oprah Winfrey were to start today, and let's say she was 20 when she first started, right?
Yes.
She wouldn't be Oprah Winfrey. There's too much competition.
There is.
Yeah. If Zig Ziglar were to start today, I don't think he'd have the success that he had in the past because the variables have changed. The environment has changed. Everything has changed. New media, social media, everything has changed. So duplicating success is very difficult. So imagine now giving that blueprint to somebody else and say, hey, do what I did. It's not possible. It's not that easy. You have to make the adjustments.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. And what are the goals that you want to accomplish this year? Or that
Goals
you will accomplish?
Well, I have a small goal. I'm trying to travel less if I can share my personal goals.
Okay.
And so one of the things I'm starting to do now is do local workshops. I have a new workshop called the Sales Mastery Intensive. So if you go to salesmasteryintensive.com, you'll see the information. So we've done 2 workshops, and my job is to perfect the workshop model here in Atlanta. So where every month I'm doing a workshop, right?
Yes.
And so the challenges I'm facing, just to let you know I face challenges also, is marketing the workshop and getting to the right people. And so putting a system in place, a process in place that works consistently is the challenge right now.
Okay.
And so I think, but my goal is to have it solved by the end of the year. Again, como un rompecabezas,
Sí.
I go, let me figure it out. De aquí al fin del año, I'm going to have this figured out.
Of course.
And so that's my singular goal. I have a book coming out. I haven't titled it yet, but it's a sales book. And so I finished writing it. The editing's done. We're going to add some illustrations. So hopefully by March or April, it'll be published. And so I'm really excited about that book. And so, yeah, if I can get those 2 things done, get the book done, get the workshops done, the way I want them, I think that would be a good year for me.
You will make it happen. And also you're talking with Grant Cardone in March, right?
Yes, I am. I'm on stage with Grant Cardone. Let me see. You got Damon John from Shark Tank. Who else is going to be there?
Les
John
Brown.
Yeah, Les Brown, who I've met before. So it'll be good to see him again. And so I feel very blessed to be on the stage with, 20 great speakers. 20 plus great speakers. It's like, wow. You know what I mean? It goes, he said, el Boricua from the hood made it. You know what I mean?
Claro.
Yeah. So me siento muy orgulloso muchas veces. And I have a lot of people who send me emails, It's nice to see a Boricua, un Latino up there.
Claro. I'm so proud. When I saw you the interview with Grant, I'm like, oh my God, I have to get in touch because you're Latin.
Yeah.
So thank God, a Latin would be in that stage.
Yeah, so that's nice. Now, did you interview Grant? Yeah, you should interview him.
I was at his Whatever It Takes reality show.
Right.
So I want to get to his level. But basically, this podcast is about Latin people. I want to help Latin people. But one day in the future, when I'm at his level, I'm going to interview him.
There you go. Yeah, you'd be amazed. I mean, I think he'd grant you an interview.
Yes, of course. I love him. He's really presentable. I love him. But I already met him in person, and he saw me when I was learning about sales and everything. So I didn't close him on the water pitch. So
okay.
So it was at the reality show. So it's on TV and everything. So next time I see him, I see him in person or in video, I want him to see how much I've grown.
Yeah. Here I'm gonna challenge you. I said I don't think you should wait to interview him. I think you should reach out, maybe not now before the event because it's probably busy, but reach out. Make it a goal that in the next 3 months you're going to interview Grant Cardone.
3 months? Okay. I'm always sending him messages hey, how are you? Or I was in 3 months, I'll interview him.
Yeah. Well, start now. Just, hey, I'm going to interview you. Make some time for me. This is what you say. I'm going to teach you how to sell Grant. So what you say, we're in March right now. Say, okay, Grant, I'm going to interview you in May. I said, so keep in mind, I want here 2 or 3 dates.
Okay.
And then just keep sending those. Hey, by the way, can we confirm those 2 or 3 dates? By the way, hey, Grant, 2 or 3 dates.
Awesome. Muchas gracias.
Yeah, no, just keep at them. And the thing is, when you give people a date, they go, okay. And then as the date gets closer, watch, he'll give you a date. And if he doesn't give you that date, he'll give you another date because he'll feel so bad. You know what I mean?
Yes. Muchas gracias.
No, de nada. Try that, pero... No, me siento orgulloso de estar ahí en la tarima con los otros, no sé qué decir, charlatanes, oradores. Pero, it feels good. I mean, it feels good. It feels like, all these years of, I want to explain that. Look, I have this vision in my head. Here's why I'm pausing, because it just reminded me when I first started out, I was speaking for free. And sometimes I would go to a place to speak, Jessica, and there'd be 2 people there. 2 people. It's the most depressing thing. I'd drive all the way downtown or something, and only 2 people showed up. And I remember there were many times, where I showed up to an event, and I mean, the smallest crowd I ever had was one. One person showed up. And so those are times where you're really tested to see if you really want to be a speaker. But it was like, I know I want to be a speaker. I just got to figure this out. I kept telling me, I just got to figure this out. And so it's when I look at the pause I gave you was that immediately my brain rushed all the way back to the beginning. And now to see this, and I think there's going to be 2,000 people there is what he's expecting.
Yes.
So it's going to be a great event. I feel very honored. I want to thank him personally, because, to be considered and allowed on the stage, I'm very grateful for that. So big high five to Grant Cardone. Pero, about 6-7 months ago, I did an event at the MGM Arena in Las Vegas. And I think I have a picture on the site. And I think we had about, 17,000 people.
Yes. Which
is the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I remember looking out from the stage and going, oh my God. It was almost like I made it. I made it to the big stage type of thing. So I want people listening to this know that, success is possible. It's just not a straight line, but you got to be persistent. You got to want it. You got to be, as Les Brown says, you got to be hungry. Yes. You got to want it bad. And so if you're on purpose, what you want to do, just keep going. You just figure it out.
I even got chills right now by you telling that story. Is there any other advice that you would like to give the public?
If you're a business owner, a small business, I train a lot of salespeople. And I'm telling you right now that if you don't know how to sell, you don't know how to present, you'll always be at a disadvantage. So whether it's for me or somebody else, you got to learn how to present. Okay. One of the best things I did is I joined Toastmasters. I don't know if you're familiar with Toastmasters.
I started Toastmasters a year ago, so I'm learning also.
Yeah. And so that was one of the best investments I've ever made. It was like, what is it, $30-$40 a quarter or something like that?
Yeah, it's really cheap.
Yeah.
And I love it.
No, it's great. And you learn how to speak. The ability to communicate, to present, to sell your ideas is typically what is going to make or break you.
Okay.
And I believe that in the core, that if you can't present an idea, you can't explain it in a certain way, you're missing out. And this means in all aspects of life. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, business owner, if you work at a corporation, you got to be able to present. You got to be able to communicate a message and drive the point home and be very good at it and be very effective at it. And that is the one skill set that I wish they would also teach in, high schools and colleges, how to present, how to communicate. Imagine if you knew about money and you knew how to communicate. Oof. Imagine what a 1-2 combination.
Yes, I will be like light years from now.
Yes. So that would be my advice. Learn how to communicate, talk to people, learn how to present. I think it's so important.
Víctor, muchas gracias por toda tu sabiduría y por todos tus consejos. De verdad, deseo mucha suerte en marzo con Grant Cardone. I know you will rock it, and I look forward to meet you in person one day.
I look forward to it also, Jessica. Thank you for the opportunity.
Muchas gracias, Víctor.
De nada, gracias.
Ay, no te desesperes y ten paciencia, que todo en la vida viene. No se trata de velocidad.
Every manager can feel it. The difference between a motivated, value-driven sales team and one that's stuck in a rut. CEOs know the difference too. They can see it clearly in the profit and loss columns. The question is, how do you get your team to this elite level? Is there something extra you can do to break through the remaining resistance and equip them with the right mindset to grow your business? Yes, there is. But you're not going to do it with one of those cheesy inspirational speakers or some self-proclaimed guru. What you need is someone with a real business track record to deliver key insights in a captivating way, to give your team the right tools for selling in today's tough marketplace. Enter Victor Antonio, experienced executive, innovative thinker, compelling speaker. He's ready to deliver the message you need your people to hear, not with a canned speech, but a customized, dynamic keynote designed to deliver results. Bring Victor Antonio to your next event before the competition does.